Because I don't always make the best decisions. That's the answer to the question you're probably about to ask me. So I didn't level off the car before I started all this body work. Moving on, check out this this awesome poster that's finally framed and up on the wall. Pretty cool. This was one of the ones that was won in the recent giveaway. So that's pretty cool. Back to the other thing, now that you had a minute to process that. I chose not to level off the car. That's a rookie mistake. So, first of all, think about that. I'll tell you the reason why I didn't level it off, and it's turning out that I should have. But let me explain why I chose to do what I did. So my garage basically consists of 2 bays we've got the drains in the middle, and each side slopes down to center. And that's not really an excuse to not level the car off, but my car needs to be mobile. I have to be able to move it around. So as you can see, the setup here is the wheels are on the casters and it's blocked up in the back here on casters. So I never really bothered to level it off. And I checked the frame dimensions, the rear frame dimensions. Before I started this bodywork, I checked these dimensions, and these dimensions all line up. The measurement from where the front of the leaf spring mounts to where the rear of the leaf spring mounts, that's 52 1/8 from center to center. But if you remember what I said I did when I started all this work, and keep in mind, when I started this work, I only intended on repairing the rear frame brace when I started out, and it led into a bunch of other stuff, was I put the car in a location and locked the wheels down, basically. And I took measurements from specific points on the car, here's an example, and dropped the plumb line down to the floor and wrote the height. And this was 31 1/2. So I knew as I was doing this work, I could keep checking those points to make sure as I was doing the work, everything was lining up. Because, you know, with doing this stuff, the tail panel was gonna have to drop some, which it was theoretically, if the car was straight, it would work. It would at least suffice to get the job done, I think. But in working on this, I realized the rear frame rail, something seemed off. The frame rail on the side that I've been working on is sitting about 3/4 of an inch high, which makes sense to a degree with some of the problems I was running into. I should mention that the car is now leveled off. I took the time to level it off properly, so that's done. So what I initially did was, this is kind of hard to show, but you'll get the idea. For initial, to check it initially, I took a level and I placed it up against the bottom of each frame rail. And if they were consistently parallel with each other, then the level bubble would have stayed consistent as I moved it along. But what happened was, as I was moving it along, it was clear that the driver's side was starting to travel upward. So I knew that the rails were not running parallel to each other. And yes, you would think, well, this rail might sit a little bit higher because all of the weight is off of it. But these things are incredibly strong and they don't move that much. Like if I am to put all of my weight on this, I can only get this thing to drop maybe 1/8 of an inch. Like I said, these rails, they're really, really tough and really strong. Bouncing on this does not budge it. When I will get off of it, it will spring right back into place. But my point is, even standing on it, I'm not getting it to drop 3/4 of an inch. So there's no way it's risen just from the weight of all the sheet metal being off of it. Okay, so just to show you guys, I have the level clamped in place. It's touching both frame rails, and I will stand on it. That's 190 pounds it would put on this rail, and it won't drop to level. So, you know, I highly doubt all that sheet metal adds up to 190 pounds, if that makes sense. Now, for anyone wondering, where the rear frame rails go in underneath the car, when you run the level across there, it is level. And when you run the level across the front frame rails, it is level. So I know the car is leveled off. I've leveled it off, well, assuming that the car is straight other than this rear frame rail. When you run the level along the rocker panels on each side and then along the frame rails, everything sits level. So that's how I know that the rear frame rail is off and it's not just the way the car is now sitting on the garage floor. Basically, to get it level, I jacked it up, went around, used wood shims, and basically played around with it until I could get everything level. I started by leveling off the back, and then I started leveling off the front. And it's a little tricky, but I got it. And again, that's assuming that, the whole car is straight, because I'm going off the car. What I think you would normally do is, if you have a flat garage, you would go off of measurements from the garage floor, which I can't do because I don't have a level garage floor. And I know that having the car on these casters while it's held at level is not ideal, because if the floor isn't level and the car moves, it throws everything off. But this is the best I can do for the situation that I have, because I have to be able to move this car around for different reasons. So basically, I'm doing the best I can. Now, I have consulted with Harvey Redman, who you guys, I've mentioned him before. He's an auto collision repair tech, and he's also very knowledgeable about these old classic Mustangs. He has a few of his own, and he's done this kind of work before. And I've also talked to Barry, who most of you probably know from Joe Daddy's Garage. And between the two of them, there's a lot of different, well, I wouldn't say a lot of different, but there are some theories in play. But when you look at the rail, there's nothing obvious that suggests it's creased or bent or anything. And one of the theories is could have been, a factory defect. So it's possible maybe the thing was forced into place and then welded together to get it close, which was, the tolerances on these old Mustangs are nothing like the new cars today. And it was good enough and never an issue. But for right now, I'm trying to develop a plan to proceed. And I spent most of the week trying to figure this out, which is why I haven't done much. I've looked the car over for any other damage, maybe suggesting that maybe it was buckled a little in the middle and not on the frame rail, but I can't find anything that indicates anything that would be throwing this rail off. So I'm going to take a week off from working on this area to sort of gather my thoughts and formulate a plan. And this coming week, I'm going to be doing work on a different part of the car. So because I don't have much content for you this week, just for fun, I'm going to show the time-lapse recording I took of me painting out on the computer a 67 Mustang. It belongs to Trip Corbin. He sent me a picture. I've talked about him on these episodes before. He actually has his own YouTube channel where he's working on this Mustang. The channel is 67 Stang, so check it out if you want more Mustang content. But anyway, he sent me a picture of it. I painted it out, and it turned out really good. And we put it on a shirt and sent it his way, and he's really happy with it. So if you want to stick around and watch that, by all means do. And if not, well, until the next episode, guys, stay driven.